So I thought I'd just pass on a little tip for them to use out here, looking at using some aftermarket parts. There's some neat things out there that are fun to use, and they look cool and they work good, I guess. I don't know, I haven't tried it yet. But we bought this little unit. And this is one of these small electric start units, basically. And when you push the lever, it pulls this in, pushes your starter shaft out to engage with your starter. Now when the instructions come with these, they just say to put the gasket on. When you take your solenoid piece out, usually there's this rubber boot assembly here, and that slides into the case and your solenoid goes on here, and that's supposed to help with sealing. Well, because of the design of this, with this big spring and stuff in here, you can't use it. And of course they don't tell you to use it in your instructions. And these are the regular sort of type of gaskets. So naturally you would think, we'll just put that on there. Like that. I haven't taken the tape off this one because I already ruined one. But this shows you where it's going to go on there. When you go to put this on, the whole unit will go cockeyed on you, and you won't be happy, it won't be straight, and it'll probably leak. So let me bolt it on there and see if I can show you. So they tell you to use this gasket, so I'm going to put that gasket in there, and we'll slide this on. Instructions say put on your gasket and then install your screws. So I'm going to do that. Now the original plate will hold, the original plate that spaces out your solenoid, if you try to use that in here, it will hold it a mile away from the unit. We'll try it just so you can see. Let's say we stuck that in there as a spacer block that the solenoid would have. You put the block in. As you can see, we've got a big gap there. So that certainly won't work. And grant you, the instructions didn't say to put the block in. But I'm showing you so that you'll know when you go to do it, and hopefully I can save you a little bit of aggravation. So we'll just tighten these up. And you would think, because the gasket, or the foam gasket as it's called, okay, so now you can see we're tightened up there against the face of it. But when you turn it around and look at the inside, look how far we are out from that. And that's a long ways. As you can see from the top, it's all cockeyed. It's in tight at the front, at the one side where the bolts are, but the other side is sticking out crossways. I don't think that it's made to go on that type of angle. You can see how it's offset like this, crooked. Pretty bad. pretty bad. You just can't leave it like that. Everything's going to be crooked and pulling on it. I mean, it's a great idea, but as we all know, a lot of the primary cases aren't straight or such, and so we're back to square one. So what we've done is take a piece of gasket paper. Now I tried at first with something round like this, you know, trying to make something that would, I thought I could just put in here, trimmed it off, and this would go down and lay flat in there, like that. This is made out of a piece of rubber, a Speedo Drive rubber, and you'd think that would go in right. But the difference in the depth of this little rubber and where the screws go in, again, caused the thing to cock and bend out. So it won't sit flat on the surface. So as you can see, it's not much of a fit on there. Trying to use the other small gasket like this, because even that slight little bit pulls it sideways and leaves a big space there. We could gob it full of silicone, but that's not really going to do it. So what we've done is made this little gasket out of gasket paper. You can use one of these original ones to put on it, like that, to draw out your hole size. Then when you've got your hole size, slide it onto your solenoid, onto your new solenoid lever, and then you can mark out where to cut it and where to drill the holes. This piece goes over the whole thing, so it will fit like that. So it's level with the whole piece. So just to show you, I've already got my holes here, but if you cut your centerpiece out so that that will fit, then you can lay it down and draw out your edges and get a nice fit on your gasket around this so it's not sticking all over. When you've got it like that, just take it and put it on a little piece of wood like this with the edges hanging over, and then take your drill, hold it steadily, and just take your drill and go down through until you've drilled out the two holes. And that will give them to you right in place where you want them, so that you won't have to fool with that either. So it'll give you a nice fitting gasket by the time you're done. Now, when we put this in, we reinstall our screws. Now, I mean, you could put it in there and just gob it full of silicone if you want, but I'm not really a gob it full of silicone kind of guy. Now, we snug our bolts up. We can see that it's fitting flush all around. And the same on the other side. That, of course, is where the bolts are, so they'll pull it in tight. But now you can see that this one is fitting flush and tightening up. Fortunately, our case seems to be fairly straight. So doing it that way and making a gasket to cover the whole surface. Now I am going to take silicone and silicone both sides of that rubber gasket when I put it on, because it's the only thing that will stop it from leaking out here. So there's always a way to do it, and take your time and make a gasket for it, and you'll be way better off in the end. Tighten it up and following their instructions, and using the stock kind of round gasket in there just won't work at all. Won't work at all, and I can guarantee you that over a period of time that's going to leak. Now, why they don't give you a flat rubber gasket to go in there, cost cutting, who knows? Who knows? But now we've got a good fit, and it's going to look cool on there, and I'm really happy with that. So if you see those kind of setups advertised and you go, man, that's a cool thing, because the solenoids are always a pain anyway, be prepared to get yourself a little piece of thin gasket paper, you know, and this is fairly durable, and make yourself a gasket. So Just a little extra tip there that I hope can help some people out, because sometimes putting on aftermarket stuff can make you want to rip your hair out. And last thing you want is your primary leaking all over the place and going, that's cool, but once that little foam gasket wore out, it wouldn't be so cool with oil all pouring out of there. Always a way to fix it. Just take your time and look at the problem. Okay, it's just all part of the bolt-on stuff, just to bolt it on. So be prepared to have to modify things to make them work properly. And it will take you extra time, but that extra time is well worth it in the end, especially if you're doing something in an area that's full of oil and it's going to pressurize a little bit and try to force oil out the path of least resistance, which would be that area. Quite often you see when you bolt on solenoids, they don't even fit right even with the spacer block. So, and because we can't use the rubber boot and we can't use the gasket, there's really no choice except to make something. So I hope this helps some of you out for something in the future, and we'll get to see it when it's on Gus's bike and see how it works. Slide this through, get the little tank in place. I should be able to pop that gear up enough to go. So, as we go to put this piece on, we've got to put the spring and the collar and that on there and a pin through this hole. And when you measure this hole, the hole is too small for the pin to go in at all. So, we're going to have to try and drill that out so that we can put a pin in there the way it's supposed to be, or it's no good at all. This evidently is drilled out some metric size, and you know, it wouldn't be so bad if they would send you a pin with it, but guess what? They don't do that. So there you go, you got to put it all on there, you got to put a pin in. Pin won't go in. The old solenoid here, when I checked the hole, is 1.28 to 1.30, a little warm, but it's an 1/8 of an inch hole. And again, this one, 1.2. So we're a good 7/8 of an inch smaller than what's needed. Aftermarket. Pin won't go in, and it's supposed to slide in there easily so as not to be a pain in the ass trying to get it in there. I'm going to check around some other pins I got, but I know damn well that that's the difference on it. 1.28 is 1/8 of an inch, so you probably should have an 1/8 of an inch hole in order for this pin to go in. Drilled our little hole out here so that'll take the pin. We're just going to stick it in there. See if we can get some bolts in it. I'm gonna have to put the goop to it. I can see light through there. If we're gonna have to silicone the back side of it as well. Piece of crap. am going to take silicone and try to go around the inside lip there. Looks to be in the right position here now. Just slide the clutch basket on. That's not going to work. So I don't really know which way to go with this. Yeah, I'm afraid if I undo this cotter key, gotta pull it out by the looks of it. I would say that this cotter key has to come out. I didn't get any instructions with it, but I would say that this needs to be removed. You should be able to pull that out. Release that spring, and that spring should shove it back. So what I'm going to try and do is put this little spring back in on the end as it should be. Let's see if we can get this back in there. That'll allow pressure back on it and shove it back that way. Here we go. So I pulled the key out, cotter key out, and she popped back into place. But now it doesn't want to pull it out far enough, does it? No. So we're still at it trying to get this unit to work, and I think I've got it figured out. The instructions were so vague and there was no schematic, like a drawing. It told you how to wire it, but it certainly didn't show you where to space things, and the way it was translated or whatever certainly didn't seem to make things really clear. But this is what we have. I've had to take the top nut off, and what we've done is put 3 washers in here at this point, and it at least now has made my unit sit back a little bit farther. So according to the amount of spacers in here that you have, that's how far it will sit back. Now when I draw it in, when I put the spring on, I'm hoping that it's going to bring it out to there. So to show you the easiest way, what I've done is move the oil tank over a little bit so I can get at this top screw instead of, I have this unit all in here now and sealed, and I really don't want to fool with it as far as taking it on, taking it off, taking it on, taking it off. So we pull the top screw out. And by taking the top screw out, I'm able to pull the whole shaft out. Like this. And the whole shaft will come out in your hand. So once you put your washers on in there, you place this over the ring, so it's seating on the ring, and try to fit the end of it over while inserting the shaft back into place. And I'm not in there this time. Wiggle it around till we get it to lock into that gear. There we go. So now we can see that by spacing these washers in here, it's put this gear back into place. Now when I pull that whole shaft, it should move the whole thing. So we're going to insert our bolt for it into place. And now we can see that the gear is sitting back into the gear. So when my other spring is on this part, it should hold this in place. And as I push it out, it should engage and disengage that gear. With it in place, when I slide this on, kind of see that this is going to kick out into our ring gear there, and they suggest 3/4 of the way, which I'm at least at. I found if I take one off, one less, then it will grind the back of the bendix gear into the back of that starter assembly, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to take our little spring. I'm just going to put a tie wrap around it to try and compress it. You can just do it like that, and that should help you putting this back on here a little bit, because it's going to be even harder than it was to compress that back in there. That in. Give her a little cup on it. Get our pin in there started. There we go. Now hopefully we can pull that out. Snip that off. And we're just going to put the pin in there far enough. There we go. That locks back up over it. Here we go. Okay. That's how it should go. That looks to be about right. So getting the washers in behind it is just trial and error to see how far you want it to go back. So we can see here, by taking this out and putting, I use 3 washers particularly in here, but the washers will, how many washers you put in there will force this back, as you can see. And this gives me 3/4 engagement. So we should be good there. The instructions weren't very clear, and I'm hoping that this helps some people out, because it just says stack washers and it doesn't really tell you where they go or anything like that. And that's the problem I had, was it wasn't going back far enough. It was still stuck out into the ring gear. So after some trial and error, this is what we got figured out here. So if you're using these units, they're nice and clean, but you're gonna have to make some sort of gasket here. They won't fit right. For a belt drive application, no problem at all. For chain drive, it can create a problem, but I'm hoping it doesn't leak. We also took time to silicone where this joint meets up inside here with some good RV silicone. And hopefully that will stop any of the leaks from happening around this unit, as it doesn't seal very well. But we're hoping when we get it all hooked up that everything will work as it should. So sometimes when you're fooling with the aftermarket stuff, it makes you want to rip your hair out. You know, it said something about washers in there, but it wasn't clear as to where they went or anything like that. This is the only thing I could figure out. But now, it seems like we're good there. Hopefully we're all sealed up in there. I didn't have to disturb where I siliconed it. The pin's in place. You double check to make sure that your little pin is locked into the cup. Now we should be good to assemble the rest of it. So I hope that helps somebody out who's looking at one of these little units. That they're a neat idea, but they just don't fit right, and they take some fooling around to make them work. Now I'm hoping that this is going to work all right, so we'll see once we get her hooked up and take it from there. Okay, well, if you enjoyed this video today, like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, do those kind of things. It helps our channel to grow, and we appreciate everybody's help. I'd like to send a special shout out down there to my brothers from another mother, old Hippie down at Hippie's Chopper Corner, Slick down at Slickhead's Custom Cycles, and Gus, of course, at This Old Chopper. I also send a shout out down to my buddy Sean at Sean's Nonstock Customs Limited. We're all doing our thing out there. We're all having fun, and summer's on the way, so we plan to get out and get some riding done and get this old shovel out on the road where she should be. So stay tuned to our next episode, and we'll get at something else. All right.